The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and guests and don't necessarily reflect the views of WOWT.
Welcome to another episode of Becca's Talking. I want to thank you for joining us. Also, want to remind you about the Becca's Talking Facebook page, the Becca's Talking YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like us, all that digital stuff. And then every Tuesday morning at 10, a brand new podcast comes up where we talk about interesting things, a wide variety of topics with everyday people with interesting stories to tell. And it's brought to you by the good folks at Havana Garage in the Old Market. If you're going out to the Old Market or spend some time down there, maybe a nice dinner, maybe you got a concert you're going to, a show, hey, make sure that you take some time and visit Havana Garage. Havana Garage with just a nice place to go for a cocktail, a cigar, some good conversation, a nice outdoor patio. Tell them Becca sent you when you stop on by Havana Garage in the Old Market. Okay, so this is, I normally have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to be talking about. But I'll be honest, I don't know hardly anything about this. That's why we're going to learn. With me right now, this is Lindsay Toussaint Brown and also Izzy Harden, right?
Yes.
Lindsay, you are the Executive Director of the Omaha Sports Commission.
That is correct.
Okay. First of all, what is the Omaha Sports Commission? I don't think a lot of people even know there is a sports commission.
Yeah, so the Sports Commission is a metro-wide organization. We are a nonprofit, and what we do is we focus on the economic development and tourism through the avenue of sports. So we'll bring sporting events into the community by bidding on them or creating them, and we do that so that way we do spur on the spending that happens within the community and the growth within our community.
When you say bidding on them, I imagine there's a lot of competition for some big events.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, Swim Trials was the biggest event that we are known for bringing in and hosting, and that's a coveted event, right? So we are competing against all sorts of different communities around the United States to host these different events, and that can kind of span from your professional down to your youth events, and then there's different sports, of course, within each of those. So tons of events to go after, and so picking and choosing and competing against our competitive communities gets to be really hard to showcase that we should be the pick for them. So
okay, so when you go to try to sell Omaha to another event, how do you sell Omaha? Because Omaha's a really good town, especially when it comes to amateur sports or collegiate sports and the like. Yeah. Which I guess isn't really all that amateur anymore.
That is true.
But it's a good town for that sort of thing. How do you go about and sell Omaha to these people?
Yeah, there's a few different things that we really pride ourselves on. Being in the middle of the country is really great, especially when your athletes who are going to be competing are coming from all across the country. Then we talk about the amenities that we have here, whether that's the venue, the hotels, the bars, the restaurants. What is the kind of scene and vibe that they get to experience when they come in? A lot of times people will come in, like take Izzy here for an example. She's coming in to compete in one event, but she has a lot of downtime before, maybe after, to experience what our community has to offer. So those are very important things when clients consider where they want to take their events. And that's what we get to showcase.
Okay, so we're here for the Turk event, which recently held the Edzarben Turk event. It was the first year for the Edzarben Turk event. First of all, okay, Izzy, you're a competitor in Turk events, so this is where I don't know squat. What is a Turk event?
So Turk is just crit spelled backwards. What a Criterium is, it's more like if the Tour de France is like NASCAR, longer distance.
It's a bicycle race.
It's a bicycle race,
right.
But it's tight corners and it's a shorter distance, which brings much more intensity, much more adrenaline, and a lot more kind of chaos with it. So like in the Edzarben Turk, there's a U-turn, so it's a 180 turn with 4 other turns after it, which is something very different. And we would be racing on our bikes for an hour in that race with a group of 50 to 100 people. But yeah, that's what a Turk is. It's adrenaline, it's chaos, it's a lot of fun.
So you're riding your bike, each race is an hour?
Yes.
Okay, and you're riding, there's like 100 people or so in the same race going through the streets of Edzarben Village.
Yes.
That's okay. I have this, I've all seen like the Tour de France. That's pretty much all anybody knows, about bike riding, bicycle riding, or racing rather. But all seen the pictures of, the lead person wiping out and taking out about, 25, 30 people behind them. That happened in Turk?
Yes. So Criterium, there definitely is more of a danger factor to it, as with higher speeds, we're going 25, 30 miles per hour through tighter corners at smaller roads. So with that comes more danger, which is the crashing, people sliding out in corners, taking out the whole field. We've seen pileups in the finish at high rates of speed, kind of like in the Tour, you know, those last few kilometers when everyone's moving, trying to figure out where they're going to go for that finish. It's like that, but for the whole hour pretty much. And especially like with the USA Crit Series, we're going to have intermediate sprints throughout the race as well as in the race sprints for preems, which brings an extra factor. So there's like little mini races inside the big race.
Okay, so you'll race maybe 2 or 3 times in any event? Or is that what you're saying? Like with the preliminaries in that? Or how
No,
does that
so
work?
a preem is a sprint lap. So they'll call out a preem during the race, and that means that the first person who finishes that lap the quickest, doesn't necessarily mean the first person, but who has the quickest lap in it, gets a bonus prize. So it's just who can race that single lap the fastest, but it's during the race and the race never stops. So the race will be a set amount of time, right? When we talked about an hour. So each of them range about an hour in different time frames. And then during that race, there's like this dangling carrot out there that if you can run this next lap the fastest, you get an extra prize during it. And then you continue your racing until the race is ultimately done.
So you might lose the race, but you might win the lap.
Correct.
But it's
hey,
like,
I'm catching on.
you might get like, you know, they're like, all right, it's a $200 preem lap. So the first person to cross that line first for that, when that bell rings, wins $200, but the race is going to keep going.
Yep.
Okay, you say $200, which then brings the question, can you make any money doing this? I mean, because I understand there is a whole subculture of sports that I may not, you know, I'm a baseball, football, basketball kind of a guy, right? I'm old school in that regard. But I also understand, especially with women's sports, there's a whole different subculture of events that have tremendous support that the average person might not even know about. So I mean, you've been doing this now since you were 14?
Yes.
Okay, and you're what, 21 now?
22.
22. Oh, wow. Yeah, grow up so fast. So you've been doing this about 8 years. You make a decent living at it? Or is this just sort of like a nice hobby?
For a couple years ago, yes, you could make a decent living. The cycling industry goes through waves, so you'll get a big influx of support, people into it, sponsors putting in a ton of money, but unfortunately, we've seen the decrease. We're on the decrease side of that influx, so we don't have as much money, not as much money coming in from sponsorships at races anymore. So you can make good money. I just wouldn't say it's a livable wage.
Okay.
Like I just graduated college, so I can't pay my student loans just by racing my bike. I have to get like a job as well.
Don't worry, you won't be able to pay your student loans no matter what. So, but there's you say the racing interest grows in cycles. Does it need another Lance Armstrong to generate interest in this sort of thing?
I think it just needs more media attention. Honestly, that's the biggest thing, especially in the women's cycling. We see not as much attention being brought to the women aspect of it. Everyone knows the Tour. There's a bunch, you know, the news, NBC, all that puts on the Tour. They make a big deal out of it. Everyone knows what it is, but no one knows about like Itziel Basque Country. No one knows about all these other smaller races that are going on that are just as interesting. I think even more interesting. Like Athens Twilight, I think is way more interesting than the Tour. Everyone watches the last 5K, or you just put on highlights and that's about it. No one wants to sit there for 6 hours watching people pedal a bike. But not everyone knows about Criterium or these amazing races that goes on that you could really throw money into. And I think that's the biggest downfall is just the lack of media attention, but there isn't money to feed into the media to bring more media attention. So it's like this little vicious cycle. You
know what you got to do? Get the casinos involved. And people start betting on this, you'll get the media attention.
Yes.
You know, hey, you know, people start betting on the races, you'll get the media attention. Now, the Turk race, okay, and like I said, you just had the first annual one, but the Turk race is an event that the Sports Commission actually developed on its own, right?
Yeah. So the Sports Commission has worked in partnership with the City of Omaha, and specifically Visit Omaha. So it's the Exorbitant Turk presented by Visit Omaha, and we have worked in tandem to make this event an avenue where OSC, the Omaha Sports Commission, gets to own the event. So we get to control how long it comes back, the reoccurring piece, and bring something new to our community. And that was kind of the point of this, right? How do we bring something new to the community? How do we continue to heighten the economic development and tourism side of what we do, right? The heads and beds and room nights and things like that, as well as have this signature event that the city can really wrap their arms around. And this is kind of to Izzy's point, right? How do we get more communities, more awareness? How do we get the media to attach on to this, right? And Formula One has exploded. And so the easiest comparison for us to explain to people who are not familiar with criteriums is think Formula One on bikes, right? And Formula runs through streets, as do these bike events. So it's different than the velodrome, which you see in the Olympic Games, where they're going around kind of the curbed racetrack on bikes, and good mix between that and then the tour, which Izzy has referenced many times. But that's why we created this event, right? We want something that the city takes pride in and ownership of. And to her point on Athens Twilight, that race has been around for 45 years at this point, and we want to kind of follow suit. So we're 1 year in, right? But we're looking in the future that this can be a 2-decade long type event that the city gets to own.
And this is something that Omaha owns, right?
Yep.
Which is different than you mentioned the Olympic swim trials before.
Yep, that is correct.
Which we didn't own, and Indianapolis came and took it away from us.
Correct.
Right. Or the College World Series, which we don't own.
That is correct.
At least Sports Commission has nothing to do with the College World Series, right?
and the NCAA owns that event, right? And so we don't have some of these big signature events that we as the community get to experience tend to be those that are owned by other entities. And then we have bid on them collectively in some fashion, right, within the city to bring those into our community. So that way our residents get to experience them and we get to bring visitors into the city. But with the ability to create and own your own events, then you can really cater it to what is needed within the community, the interests that are maybe spiked here. Like we have a huge, robust biking community, and that expands across the different disciplines, whether that is road cycling, maybe crits, gravel, mountain biking, right? There's a lot of different disciplines that have really taken off through COVID, before and after, right, as well. But that's where we get to kind of tailor this event and create something that we can attach to. And that is really how identifying a criterium came out of this goal of ours.
What else is the Sports Commission involved with? Whether it be the things that you do, like the criteria that you own, or that you work with to help support other sporting events here in town? Yeah,
so the Omaha Sports Commission gets to, very fortunately this year, we've got a robust year, but we get to host the second year of the USA Triathlon Multisport Festival. So it's held up at Lake Cunningham early June. And that was a 2-year bid. So that was also one where USA Triathlon owns it. We bid on it. We bring it in. That's a 5-day event where we'll see individuals from all 50 states come and compete. So 5 days, 12 different races that happen. Then at the end of June, we're hosting the US Open for the sport of badminton. So we are bringing in athletes from all over the world to come compete at it. It is the U.S. Open for that sport. Those athletes are incredibly talented. Many of them are competing at representing their countries, competing at national level events, international events, Olympics, and then they get to compete here. And we're doing that at the Mid-America Center over in Council Bluffs. So those are events that we bid on, we bring in, but we have created cross country. So we've done a lot of work in conjunction with UNO and Creighton cross country coaches, along with Nebraska Game and Parks, and we've created a dedicated course out at Mahoney State Park for cross country.
Now, I'll admit, when you say badminton, it doesn't sound, interesting to me. It doesn't sound. But then I know that it's an Olympic sport. I know that it probably has got a whole subculture of people that come that I would never even imagine. Right?
I'll give you a few facts that are probably going to blow your mind a little bit. Okay. So when we brought in the event in 2023, because we hosted that in 2023, we get to host again this year in 2025. When we brought it in 2023, at that time, the second highest paid female athlete in the world was a badminton player from India. And she was here. Yep. So there's one. Two, the shuttlecock that they hit back and forth, they'll hit that 200 miles an hour.
Yeah,
and
I know there's more.
There's more. Remember, back in 70s, what we now see as pickleball, right? Like that is the sport that has taken off. People of all ages can play it, and it's really the thing. That was badminton back then. And one more, the USA Badminton, so the national governing body for badminton, resided in Papillion 1 year, many, many, many years ago. But for a year, there was an individual locally who was super ingrained in it and kind of helped them out and was really working with that organization. And so it resided here in our community for a year.
There's a YouTube video that they show like every Summer Olympics. And I forget the reporter's name, but she's talking about the difference of Olympic badminton and the badminton of her kids playing in the yard. Yeah. And it's hilarious, and it's very funny, very well done. But so when we talk about like the Turk and even badminton, are these both male and female, or is this are these female sports, women's sports? What are the criteria, if you will, for these events? Yeah,
I mean, as the Sports Commission, when we go after events, it may be gender specific, it may be age specific, it may, there are different things that we go after. But when it comes to the criteriums, those are. The races may be gender specific. They may not, right? Our master's category is both male and female together. But when you start getting into professionals or even the open categories, we do have those separated. But Izzy can talk a little bit more about what she experiences at other races. But that is how we have categorized our races for our event here.
Oh, so every race is different then?
For the most part, yeah. So a lot of times, like these bigger races, like the USA Crits and everything, it is separated pro men's and pro women's. So obviously women in the women's race, men in the men's race, and they do like drug testing and all that. But in like junior fields, so when I was racing as a junior, the juniors would just be all together. Most of the time it was just me, the only girl, because cycling is a very male-dominated sport, as we see. And you'll see that this weekend, just like there's more men just in the fields than there are, women's fields. But luckily that is also changing, which is amazing. We're trying to get more girls on bikes, which is like huge, and I love it. But like in those junior fields, like there would be a lot of times I'd show up, I'm the only girl, and so it's like, all right, I'm going to go race the boys now. And some of these like smaller local races are a little bit looser in terms. So I'll finish my race and then I'll go and jump in the men's race for extra training because I'm not going to win at the end of the day. Like realistically,
but you beat some of the boys, I'll bet.
I do try. Listen, I will put up fight until the end. So most of the time I'll sit in there, and then it's kind of funny because they're huge, and I'm not a very big person. So seeing the photos is really funny. But yeah, that's just kind of like some of the local races. Yeah, we'll kind of like mix it up. Some of the girls will go into the men's races just to get extra training, extra speed work, a little extra dynamics and everything. But yeah, most.
How did you get involved in doing this? I mean, did you say professionally you've been racing since you were 14?
Yes.
But you started racing when you were 9?
Yes. So I used to play soccer. So my dad's British. He's very been like European sports and everything. And of course, being British, he's very like soccer, football, as they call it. But I had a growth. I had a cyst on my femur. And one day during the summer between 3rd and 4th grade, I went to jump into my friend's pool and it snapped underneath me. And where it was, especially at that age, it was really close to my knee and where all the ligaments and everything from my knee attached to my femur. So it was a long healing process. It took me the whole summer in a full leg cast. And since it was on my non-dominant leg, so if you know anything about soccer, you land on your non-dominant leg and kick with your dominant leg. They were like, no more of that, because I still had a cyst. We didn't know what it was going to do. We didn't want to risk another break. And if they didn't know, they had to go in and like scrape it off or anything like that. So they're like, no more soccer for right now, at least until you're 18 when we can really figure out what's going on. And so my dad was riding bikes. So I was like, we'll do it for a rehab. I'm a 8-year-old kid. I got a lot of energy. I'm a very extrovert. I just wanted to get out and go do something. So I was riding bikes and they're like, let's just go put you in a race. And I ended up loving it and really kind of skyrocketed it from that. So it kind of turned from a rehab, extra thing to do to like now this like amazing profession that's taken me all over the country. I've gone to Canada with it. I've gone to Trinidad and a bunch of other places lined up hopefully soon. So yeah, and it's brought me some amazing people as well.
So you say you just graduated college.
Yes.
How long do you want to do this? Or do you have like a regular 9-to-5 job back? You're from Atlanta, right?
Yes, I just recently moved to Atlanta area. Yes.
Okay, so do you have like a regular job there and then do this on the weekends, or is this you're young? You say, "Oh, young, I'm going to go and give it a shot." You're just going to travel the country riding bikes.
So right now, I'm definitely I've kind of taken a step back, just like not really stressing about a work right now since I graduated literally like a week ago. So it's like I'm just taking this like the rest of kind of May, just like really just calm down, chill. I'm working, doing full-time student with training has been really stressful for the past 4 years. I do have like a job at home that I work, and they're super great. They're really flexible with me. They let me kind of just like come in and out as I please, but they give me the ability to go and train. But yeah, right now I'm kind of just focusing more on just living, I guess, my life, traveling, riding with all my friends, my family, and everything like that. Luckily, my boyfriend also rides. We race on the same team, so we go out, we train together all the time, and it's great. Makes it a lot easier when you're trying to spend time together, especially since he works. But yeah, kind of just hanging out, riding, traveling, and then going to focus more onto a career as I get older. I do want to have a family at some point, which, for a female to have a family and still keep up athletics is a little challenging, but definitely, eventually towards my 30s, I want to. But
that really is amazing what has happened with women's sports in general. Mm-hmm. You talked about, we have here in Omaha now, we have a sports bar that just plays women's sports, and that's more and more happening all over the country. Yep. Where, of course, Caitlin Clark was the one that really, I think, got a lot of people's attention, although. Other sports like figure skating and whatever would also, from time to time, capture the people's attention in that. How many people are like ride in the Turk race here in Omaha? How many riders did you get?
Yeah, so we have a myriad of races, right? We've kind of talked about that a little bit with the professionals and then the opens, and we do have a kids race as well, right? We want to see if we can capture some more Izzies. That way we help propel the sport as well. But between all of our races, which we have 6, right? We've got probably about 150 or so athletes competing. So we're very excited as a first year event to kind of really start showcasing not only the national talent that we have here, but we'll see a lot of the local, and by that I mean maybe Omaha area, and there are definitely some riders. So we're excited that they're invested into this event as well, but I would say more regional as well. So within a handful of hours away.
Do you have any numbers as far as economic impact, not just of Turk, but just of the sports they bring in, whether it be the badminton, whether it be any of the other sports that you mentioned? Yeah,
we do calculate that across all of our events each year. I would say specific to this event, so specific to the Exorbitant Turk, our Criterium here, we're looking at about $1 million economic impact for it. For our events, they flux each year, right? So very, very changing with the events that we bring in and the events that we bid on, but give or take, this year will probably be about $7 million in economic impact that we bring from our events into the community.
Because you're not necessarily, although I think you support, but you're not necessarily involved with things like the Storm Chasers or the professional volleyball teams that we have here now, and that you're not really involved with that so much, are you? Or the Union Omaha, but.
That is correct. We'll partner with them on different things. So it's marketing side of things and promoting them as the representatives of sports for our community. We may support them in different ways, whether it's showing up, the marketing, helping them with sponsorship stuff. We've done that with a few different as well. Could be on the volunteer side, but it is how do we as an organization rally around what exists here to not only promote our city, but to help the grassroots side of sports, right? So there's the examples of Izzy here, right, locally, where she just kind of fell in love with riding, and now look at her, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to see that. We fully anticipate seeing that on the biking side here with an event like this. I mean, you see it with College World Series, you saw it with swim trials, right? Where once swim trials came in, some of those swim programs locally really exploded in a fantastic way and led some athletes into competing into their college career, maybe even further than that. So we really do expect to work with all of our sports groups locally. That way we can better our community and those who live here as well.
I got a few more questions I want to ask you, but I want to remind people once again about the fine folks at Havana Garage on the Old Market. Havana Garage, where you can stop on by. It's got a cool vibe to it, you know. It's got the Rat Pack, which, you know, you're too young. You have no idea who I'm talking about here. But Sinatra and Dean Martin and Frank and everybody. I mean, the whole gang there, Sammy. Yeah, anyway, check it out. It is just a great, unique place in a very unique part of town, the Old Market, Havana Garage. So we look now as, you know, this event, and you say that you're partnering with Visit Omaha on this, right?
That's correct.
I imagine you do a lot of stuff with Visit Omaha when you have these events.
We do. Yep. So if it exists and occurs, because we work Metro-wide, so if it exists and occurs within that Douglas County area, or in city limits, we do work with Visit Omaha on all those events.
I think it's a crime how little the state of Nebraska and the city of Omaha actually spends on bringing tourists to town, on tourism. I think that we've got a lot to offer here, and we don't do a good enough job in promoting it. You know, that's my opinion. But do they do a lot? I mean, to help you bring people in? Are you spending money to bring the people in? And who funds the Sports Commission?
Yeah, good question. So I would say that we as the Sports Commission have worked really, really hard to better our partnerships with the partnering Convention Visitor Bureau groups. So whether that is Visit Omaha, Council Bluffs, CVB, Sarpy County Tourism, right? That way, when we are looking at events, sports specific, right? When we are looking at events, we co-bid on them. So wherever that event will reside, that's who we partner with and co-bid on. I think that it's very challenging to compete against all these communities, but I think a little power in numbers, right? Mm-hmm. So when we're co-bidding on these together, we come as a force because we have different assets to offer our clients. You know, we're as the Sports Commission here, and a little unique to sports commissions in the United States, we're an event service side of things. A lot of times they tend to more align with marketing, but that's where our partners at those Convention Visitor Bureau groups are really strong, right? They know what's happening in our community. They know all the bars, the restaurants, what people are going to want to visit when they come here, those attractions. So they kind of bring that piece of it, and then we're more hands-on as we create or bring in these events. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done, and this goes for the whole entire scene of sports for our community, but for the state as well. There's always more to be done, and sports are continuing to grow and expand. And you've already hit it on the head with the women's sports, right? Women's sports have exploded in the past few years, and we would absolutely want to be a part of that. But there's the sports tourism industry is about the third largest tourism industry that exists in the United States. And I'll be honest, I don't think that we get enough piece of the pie. I'll argue that the whole state of Nebraska doesn't, right? But that's where there's a few groups of us, whether it's, you know, sports commissions or the Convention Visitor Bureau who have focus on sports across the state. We've got some groups who are working collectively to try to expand those efforts, because sports is great, right? Sports impacts some extreme live changing situations for people, and it puts you on a trajectory you probably never thought you would ever be on. So we really are taking a bigger look at that in this last couple of years, and it's a long time to change something like that, but we're making moves on it for sure.
Okay, so what else have you got on the horizon coming up? I know that in the past, in the Winter Olympics, so you had curling here, and that never came back. What happened there? I mean, that should have been. Curling actually is big here in Omaha.
It is. It's big. It's big in other places too. So we ended up not winning that bid. That was another event that you bid on, but we'll give it a whirl again once it comes back around. Sometimes you don't win those bids. I would probably say that for about every bid we win, for every bid that we win, we've probably put in another 5 or 6 that we've lost for other sports, right? So it gets to be very, very competitive. But we've got some really great things coming up between, as soon as this event's done, the following week will be the Oscars, so the Omaha Sports Commission Awards show. So that's where we get to recognize the sport talent that happens locally. And that's our fundraiser event. Then shortly following, about a week after that, is the Multi-Sport Festival for Triathlon. Then at the end of June, we've got the badminton event. We've got a catfishing event that happens later in August. And then we really roll into a whole season of cross country. We have a myriad of events down there.
That's another thing. I mean, like catfishing events,
Yeah.
which, but these are people that, I mean, they bring in people, don't they? I mean,
Absolutely. And different people, right? I mean, everybody has their interest and the traditional, and I'll say traditional in kind of a lighter form, but your soccer, your basketball, your volleyball, football, right? There's extreme passion for that here, but there's also passion for some of those, I will call them underrepresented sports. And just because the events have never been brought in, and that's really a position that we pride ourselves on. So like the cycling community, or the fishing community or badminton, whatever that might be. So we're really taking an interest in some of those things on the future, a little more futuristic down the road. We have had significant discussions with Ironman. Everybody knows the brand of Ironman, and an Ironman has never occurred in the state of Nebraska before. But I will say I think we're pretty close on landing that, which would be an enormous get for our community.
I probably ought to start getting in shape if I want to compete in that. Yeah.
Time's ticking on that.
It really is cool that, and I find it fascinating that there are just so many things like this that you wouldn't think, the average person, like I said, College World Series gets all the press, Creighton basketball, the Storm Chasers, the supernovas and all that, they get the press, they get the publicity, but there's an awful lot of other sports that go on here that maybe don't get the same attention that they could be getting.
Yeah. I think that's what's great about our X-Arbing Turk is that they are bringing media and attention to like bike racing that no one, it's all these sports that you wouldn't know you liked until you watched them, but there's no way to watching them because most people are like, oh, no one's going to watch that, but then they broadcast it and you never know. There could be a ton of people that love it.
Yeah.
You mentioned that, and I'll admit, I was one of those guys. Volleyball, what the hell, volleyball? And then when the Final Four was in Omaha years and years ago, I had media credentials, and I, was there watching, the women's volleyball, and it was like, holy crap! This is really athleticism. I mean, it was really a wonderful event, and I had no idea until I actually went and saw it in person. The same thing is true with me personally, at least with hockey. Mm-hmm. Hockey on TV does not appeal to me. But boy, you go to, out to Baxter Arena, and watch a good hockey match, watch Omaha play, it's exciting, it's fun. And you realize the skill and the athleticism involved in this. I would imagine that you probably get some people think, well, I ride a bike. How hard can it be what you do?
Yeah.
But until you actually see it and you realize, holy crap, that is hard. Yeah.
Yeah, you're playing chess at 30 miles per hour at 190 BPMs, so it's like...
So there's a mind game to it also, huh?
Yeah, so I like to think about it this way, is you have what we call matches, and you have a set amount of matches when you go into a race. And each time you do an effort, so say you attack off the field. So it's like when you do a really hard effort and get ahead of the field and now you're solo, that's burning a match. And then every time you go for a preem or for these mid-race sprint points for the USA Crits, that's burning another match. And at the end, you want to stave your matches. So at the end of the race, you have, 8 matches to burn compared to people that might have 5 matches to burn. But it's like you have to think, okay, if I go with this move or if I make this move right now, go for this $200 or whatever, how many matches is that going to burn of mine? And how many am I going to have left for that end, and where's everyone else at? So it's like you're paying attention to your competitors, what they're doing, their facial reaction, expressions, their body language, and as well as like how you feel, talking to your teammates, being like, how do you feel? How do you feel? Making sure everyone, if someone doesn't feel good, all right, now we have to change our plan completely. So that's the other aspect. And then also we're going hard. 180, 190 beats per minute, especially coming into the finish, you're like making contact, they don't realize it's a contact sport. Like we definitely like, you get your elbows into some people as well coming into those last corners, getting ready for that finish. So yeah, it's a lot.
It's like NASCAR, you're rubbing and stuff and you're going through and
And a little bit to what we were talking about earlier, and this will piggyback off of what she said. When I was living in Indianapolis, I happened to see a Criterium that was taking place there. Much like you, I was like, I don't know what a Criterium is. And the moment I watched it, I was hooked. And that's the thing, right? This event is a national level event. It's on a 9 series circuit under USA Crit. You can watch it online. But to your point with hockey, right? Like for a lot of people, that is not going to do it for them. It's hard to grasp that mental game and see those components of it. It's hard to grasp how fast they're going. But if you come out to it, which the event is free, right? So it's free to attend in the Exarban area. But if you come out and watch to it, whether you like biking or not, you will be hooked to it because it is so fascinating to watch these individuals play that strategic game, going that kind of a speed while taking, all of the corners on this technical course. There's a lot to it. It's more than just riding a bike.
Well, again, coming back next summer.
Yeah.
The Exarban Turk. Yep. Thank you for joining us, Lindsay, Izzy, and good luck in your travels and good luck in, adulthood as you get out of college and then see what's ahead. Don't forget, every Tuesday, a brand new podcast. You don't know who's going to be up next. Make sure you subscribe to the Tom Becca YouTube channel, the Becca's Talking YouTube channel. Also, like us on the Facebook, Becca's Talking Facebook page. And, of course, visit the folks at Havana Garage in the Old Market. Till next time, take care and bye, y'all.